SABC headquarters in Auckland Park, Johannesburg. Welcome to this Tuesday edition of The Watchdog. My name is Vuyo Mvogo, and on the show this evening,
we want government to regulate and to cap petrol prices, diesel and paraffin increases. We want them to subsidize the taxi industry.
The country's leading union federations, supported by a host of civil society organizations, hope to bring the country to a standstill tomorrow. The country's cost of living is the focus of the nationwide socio-economic protest. We speak to some of the organizers and backers. A year since whistleblower Babita Deokaran was killed, and on the day another whistleblower, Faiki Mentor, died, we look at progress being made to protect people who sacrifice so much, at times life and limb, to help root out corruption. The Watchdog starts now. It's been a year since whistleblower Babita Deokaran was killed, and on another day, whistleblower Faiki Mentor died. And later on, we will be looking at the progress, as I said, that is being made to protect people who sacrifice so much. But first, we look, of course, at that national shutdown being planned for tomorrow. It's all systems go for it, at least according to the organizers, who hope that the country's workers and members of civil society will indeed turn up in large numbers. Organizers' demands include a 1,500 basic income grant, the de-escalation of interest rates, fuel, electricity and food costs, an end to the privatization of government institutions, as well as an end to wage cuts and below inflation wage increases in both the private and public sectors of our economy. The Department of Public Service and Administration has, however, cautioned that while protests are protected by the Labour Relations Act, essential services workers are in fact prohibited from participating in the protests during office hours. They are also saying that the principle of no work, no pay will indeed apply. And of course, no leave will be granted unless under extreme and compelling situations. Let me introduce you to my guests, I should say, for this conversation. I am joined here in studio by Soli Malema, yes, who is the General Secretary of the National Union of Public and Allied Workers Union, which is a SAFTU affiliate whose members today were among those that participated in curtain raiser events earlier on. We also have his namesake, and that is Soli Petwe, who is COSATU's Deputy General Secretary. He joins us on the line. Also joining us on the line is Tami Hukwe, who is the leader of the Gauteng Housing Crisis Committee, one of several civil society organizations that are supporting the protest. Good evening to all of you, gentlemen, and thank you so much for your time.
Evening.
Good evening, and good evening to the listeners.
Okay, let me start with you, Soli, here in the studio. With me. You know, members of your organization, together with several other SAFTU affiliates, did this or were part of this curtain raiser events. Did you sense that there was this appetite? Everyone's looking forward to joining tomorrow's events?
Look, Vuyo, the truth is that we are in a kleptocratic state, and as the working class, we have got there's nothing but to fight back against this cruel capitalist system. And I must say, we started today in Tshwane, where we have submitted a memorandum of demand to the Minister of Health, demanding that all community health workers in the country must be employed permanently, and all EPWPs must be employed permanently. All security officers in the public service must be insourced, and the cleaners. And all these things, Vuyo, are centered around austerity. That's why tomorrow we are saying all the working class communities must participate in this struggle, because without us fighting, we will have no country, Vuyo. We are in trouble.
Solipetwe, I mean, why a shutdown and not other forms of protests?
Thank you very much, Comrade Vuyo. Why a shutdown, not others? I think we have explained in our press conference that we have been engaging at the level of NETLEC and for a very long time, and we have engaged at the level of the political discussion. I know somebody is going to come back and ask a question that, Kozat, you are in alliance with the African National Congress. Have you raised these issues? We have raised these issues many times. And I think that we must be able to say these things, that COSATU would have taken an action of this type of national shutdown around 2019. And you will recall at that time we were interdicted by BUSA, and we had no support from NETLEC. Some social partners were alone as COSATU and our union SASBO. And in that case, in 2019, we said we are not going to allow that thing. We are going to appeal, and we're appealing the Section 77 notice of the economic crisis. And in that same year, I think 2019, the Labour Court appeal judgment ruled in our favor and say anything that is in the NETLEC certificate in relation to the application on economic crisis that has not been resolved, this certificate remained valid. And unfortunately, we could not take the action during 2020. We could not take action during 2021 because of the COVID. And this year, we then decided that I think we have engaged enough on a number of issues that are affecting workers, issues that are affecting the community, the society in South Africa. That is why, as COSATU, we made an application in relation to the follow-up section notice for the 14 days. We gave the employers and at NETLEC 14 days notice, and we also apply in terms of Section 4 for the Gathering Act. So the entire country, all COSATU 9 provinces, we will be engaging on this action, and we hope that the workers in this country, whether they belong to COSATU or SAFTU or any other union, they are invited, they are covered by the certificate for them to join the strike, and the strike will be protected. I think that the issues that have been raised in our memorandum, there are a number of issues, including issues around the attack to the collective bargaining, the issues around occupational health and safety, the issues around the gender-based violence, the issues around the issue of the electricity, the issue of the privatization, that as COSATU for a very long time, for many years, we've been against the privatization. What is happening at ESCOM today is the same issue that we raised as COSATU, this thing about unbundling. For us, we don't think it's going to help. Corruption is still taking place in this country, and we think that this march tomorrow after that march action tomorrow, we'll then be able to come back to our Central Executive Committee to assess and take a further action if the response is negative.
Tammy Hukwe, I mean, civil society organizations that take up issues, like housing rates, unstrong in many parts of our country. I mean, we can look at an analysis of that as to why the situation is so. But what are you bringing to the party as formations that are joining this particular protest?
Thanks very much, Leo. Firstly, I must say that as Gauteng Housing Crisis Committee, we are very excited by tomorrow's action, because for us it represents a great forward movement in the struggles of our people. What we are bringing to the movement, it's an attempt to build solidarity and unity through linking up and connecting the community struggles with the struggles of the workers. We are doing that because we believe that the workers, before they become workers in the centers of production, they are part of residents in the communities where they live. So the issues that affect us at the community level are the same issues that affect them. And their issues at the centers of production are our issues. When the bosses are refusing to increase their wages, it affects us as the communities because we depend on those wages and income for us to live and survive as the Black working class communities. However, our issues as the Gauteng Housing Crisis Committee are the issues of land, the issues of decent housing, and the issues of decent jobs. Those are the issues that we are organizing different communities across Gauteng around. And we have been involved in this struggle, being assisted by SAFTU, and that is why we are happy that also COSATU is part of the action tomorrow. We hope that we will tomorrow consolidate this relationship between the labor movement and our community organization, including the revolutionary parties and the movement that are going to be involved in the action tomorrow. I know that the Black Consciousness Movement United, Pan-Africanist Movement, Azanian People's Organization, EFF, and many other organizations have already expressed their support of the call for a shutdown tomorrow. That is why we see this as a great forward movement for us as the Gauteng Housing Crisis Committee.
So, Malema, I mean, I think the spirit of togetherness that you and COSATU have been trying to forge is something, I mean, the workers have actually welcomed, but also, I mean, the organizations and parties that have just been referred to. But there is I mean, part of the, I mean, those who are looking at tomorrow's shutdown are saying, for the very same reasons you have decided to embark on this protest, it will not be embraced by as many people as you would want to, precisely because the workers themselves are the first to feel the squeeze of, high transport costs, high food costs, below inflation adjustments, and so on. So anything that requires them to make such a huge, sacrifice is bound to fail.
We have reached a point where whether you go to the street or not, you will be affected. Let me give you an example. The government is offering 2% increase, and the inflation is sitting above 6%. So whether you come to the street to fight for your rights or not, you will be affected. And what is disgusting with this government is that during the hard lockdown, the workers were fighting COVID, were battling with COVID. Now they come back and say, we are giving you 2%, and they give themselves 3%. That is nonsensical. 2, during the budget speech early this year, the Minister of Finance, Ino Godongwana, who is now also implicated in funny things, he gave corporate, the bosses, 1%. And they are now coming back to tell the workers that there's no money, pleading poverty. While they continue to give corporate more money, people who are having money, they continue to give them money. So we are appealing to all the unions in the public service to unite against this austerity, because like we said, this is centered around the austerity budgets, and it's affecting the issue of understaffing in the Department of Education, in health, is affecting the working class badly, because the working class is relying on these services. So now the issue of uttering rhetorics must stop. We must stand up and fight. That is the only time. If we lose this one, we will lose this country forever.
Sorry, Petra, you also don't think that the no work, no pay rule is going to be a disincentive for many workers, especially given the reality of the economic situation? In other words, everyone wants whatever cent they can possibly get.
Well, Vuyo, the issue of the no work, no pay is in terms of the Labour Relations Act, and our members and workers in the country knows that that section is there in the Labour Relations Act. And I think that we took that matter into consideration, and we felt that taking our members to the street and fight against many other issues that are affecting workers, it will be better than losing a one-day salaries. But as it has been said, you look at I think the correction that my leader there was saying, the government politicians have given them about 3% increase. So you ask yourself a question: is 3% of how much? And you give workers 2% increase. And we are not fighting only about the wages. We're also fighting for the improvement of condition of service of workers, in particular the public sector workers. Many of the public service workers are not able to afford to buy houses because they don't qualify the bond. This is one of the issues that we are demanding as workers, in particular in the public service, that government must respond positively. And this is not the first time we're raising this issue. Therefore, the issue that has been raised, we are raising in the memorandum. We think that they are more better than losing a one-day salary. And we think that, as I said earlier on, that we would be going to our National Congress this year in the next 3 months. In the next 3 weeks. We are going to assess this action of today, of tomorrow. If government or the employers, because we are not marching only against government, we are also marching against the big business, what is called BUSA, Business of South Africa, which they've got a very arrogant response. You will recall the workers in the mining industry, they were demanding a mere 1,000 rand increase. And that CEO got how much a bonus? He was given a bonus of 3 million bonus. What does that mean? For workers to demand just 300 million. 300 million. It's a lot of, and what you are unable to give workers a mere 1,000 increase. What does that say? It means workers are nothing. Workers are just there to sell their labor for nothing. And that is why, as COSATU, we are saying we really want to urge all workers to unite. COSATU, Vuyo, had a principle of one union, one industry, one country, one federation. And we want to see ourselves one day in this country we have one federation that will be able to lead the worker struggle and the working class in this country.
Not when politics continue to divide you, but that's another story for another day. But Tammy, you were talking about civil society organizations, political parties on the left that are in support of this initiative. But the EFF today said, while they are in support, but there was no indication they'll be bringing organizational support or their mobilization abilities, to this whole thing. Taxi associations, some of them announced today that they are certainly not joining. And you will recall that in the past, the unionists among us will remember this. They played a significant role in transporting people to and from the venues and so on. With the benefit of hindsight, should you not have waited a bit until you were in such a position, all of you, that you could bring everyone on board? In other words, gotten to a place where you felt, well, we've tried the best that we can, and we can't convince people or can't get them to, contribute to this in the best manner possible. Then we are then going to go ahead. Could you not have waited? Would that not have been a better strategy in ensuring that you have as many people as you can behind this?
Yeah, well, I'm sure you are correct in saying that. But unfortunately, the conditions that we are living under, especially as a resident or people that are organized in different areas, living in backyards, living in informal settlement, without water, without electricity, without having basic services. There is no time to wait for us because we feel as if we are suffocated, we cannot breathe. So this struggle for us is like a struggle to breathe. In any event, it is not just something that can happen in one day that we are all united. It's a process. So tomorrow it's the beginning of many more days to come, where we hope and believe that all the forces will be able to come together and be in one voice in making the demands that the labor movement and the civil society is making against the state and the bosses. Mm-hmm. So in essence, this is not just a one-day event for tomorrow. Tomorrow is just going to be the launch of the many more actions and sustained actions that will be coming from the black working class in fighting against the austerity budget, in fighting against the landlessness, in fighting against the homelessness, in fighting against the unemployment. In fact, the fight is against the capitalist policies that are being administered by the ANC government. So that fight is not an easy fight, it's not a one-day fight, but it's going to be a protracted struggle.
Mr. Malam, speaking of resources, your campaign from the minute, after this was conceptualized and you decided you were going ahead with it, among your affiliates, NUMSA, for example, there were announcements that it was not going to financially back this initiative. Where are things now? But does that also not suggest that you two have not done the best you could do within and among yourselves to ensure that tomorrow's shutdown is a success you want it to be?
Well, it is incontrovertible that the unity of the working class is sacrosanct. And it is a process. We need to start somewhere to build that unity. And we believe that so far we have done very well. And by even tonight, we will be embarking on a night vigil at Union Building as part of the build-up for tomorrow's shutdown. And we believe that we believe that there's a crisis in the country. The working class are under attack by the capitalist system, and we need to start somewhere to build that unity that we're talking about. Because without that unity, we are not going to be able to defeat the capitalist system. So we are working towards that unity. This is a build-up, and we are successfully winning in terms of building that unity. In terms of the resources, Vuyo, as SAFTU, we do have campaigns levy, which is the funds that we are going to utilize to mobilize all our members to union building and across the countries. So, and the NUMSA members will also be in support of tomorrow's shutdown. That was the SAFTU NEC resolution, which NUMSA was also present in that.
And they agreed to?
They will support. The only issue that they raised was the financial implications. But in terms of the support, as per the NEC resolution, they have pledged their support to the shutdown.
So, Lipetwe, you raised earlier the issue of you said that this is not only directed at government, but also at capital or the private sector. And earlier, as we're prepping I was going through some of the comments that the president has made around that social compact. You know, and the comments other people have made subsequently on the back, of course, of, you know, the social partners not being able to reach agreement on the social compact at NEDLAC. Because there seems to be, or from what the president has been saying, a point, or the time has come for organized labor, organized business, the government, and civil society to take some very tough decisions about how to take the country forward when it comes to economic recovery. And built into whatever you will have to agree on is an understanding or an acceptance that each of you will have to make sacrifices if we are to go forward. What for you are the reasons why 2 months after the deadline that was set, there's still no social compact?
Fuyo, thank you very much once again. We said as COSATU, we will not agree with the social compact that is going to deal with the workers. For an example, the issue about that workers must agree to freeze their wages or workers' salaries must increase, must be freeze. We will never agree to that. Anything that is going to be against the workers in that social compact, as workers will not be able to agree to those issues. So that is why I think we're at deadlock. There are a number of issues that we don't agree and will remain. We'll never compromise workers. For example, the issues about government wanting to privatize the SOEs, they're not dealing with corruption. Those who are corrupt, they are exposed, but there's no repercussion against those ones. Obviously, because people that were, organization that were leading at NEDLAC will never agree to anything that will compromise workers' issues or workers' conditions of service.
Tommy, civil society is just as represented at NEDLAC. From what you know, how much real representativity is there? And from looking at the way the system works, is everybody on board or taken on board? Are there mechanisms on the ground to ensure that organizations like yours do get to have their voice heard and whatever decisions you take are actually taken seriously at NEDLAC?
Well, we feel that we are being excluded from the decisions that are being made.
How so?
In fact, even those that participate, they participate as junior partners instead of them being equal partners, because the policies or the decisions that result from NEDLAC are always the decisions that put profit before the people.
Your situation is still a bit tricky, given the recognition issues. But NEDLAC right now is the forum we have as a country to get all these 4 key players to sit down and discuss the very same issues you will tomorrow be protesting about. The question is, how do we strengthen that system? Or do we discard it completely and come up with something new? What needs to happen?
Look, to us, what is happening in NEDLAC is against the workers, because if you recall, Vuyo, the issue of the right to strike, those amendments were done in NEDLAC, and unfortunately we are not party to NEDLAC, but we will do everything in our power to make sure that we unite the workers to fight against this reversal of the rights of the workers. So that's what SAFTU is currently working on, and we are in the process of being a party to NEDLAC And we do not want to go to NATLAC for the sake of going to NATLAC. We want to go there to change the status quo. Because currently, for instance, you talked about the issue of sacrificing at the expense of workers. What is it that the workers must sacrifice? What we can agree is for this government to increase the corporate tax so that, because during apartheid, the corporate tax was sitting around 52, 54%. Currently, it's sitting at 26%. But you are pleading poverty. And you're making sure that the working class are suffering. We can't accept that view.
Now, to both of you, Solis, I mean, I was looking earlier at some of the social media comments, you know, people just talking among themselves and in WhatsApp groups. Some people quite scathing about, you know, the leadership of unions, the things that leaders have done in the past, whether it's your current crop of COSATU leaders, whether it's the previous crop, which includes your SAFTU's General Secretary, you know, citing the conduct of these leaders and the tendency at times to forget, you know, about the real issues of the workers and focus rather on the politics, and how that has in many ways, or is in many ways, responsible for the situation we're in now, where the government, Solipetre, is at the forefront, you know, of actually reversing, you know, the victories you fought for so hard in the past. And people cite this as a reason for not being so keen on joining this particular protest tomorrow. I don't know what you have to say to that, Solipetre, if I may start with you.
Well, from where we stand as a federation, we have been opposed at NATLAC level in relation to some of the gains that we have achieved since 1994. For an example, I heard my leader there says that there's a reversal on the right to strike. There's no such thing that has been agreed at NATLAC. The workers still have a right to strike. The workers, they have a right to strike following the constitutional requirement, also the issue around the issue of the Labour Relations Act. And as COSATU, we have been engaging at NATLAC and the Labour Market Chamber in dealing with the amendment of the Labour Relations Act, that issues that we want to amend to suit the workers. For an example, we are in deadlock at NATLAC with business and government around the issue of Section 189. We said we want to make it difficult so that employers must not use it easy, because some of the employers, they take that Section 189 in consultation. They will tell you today and give you a letter as a union and say, we are consulted. The next day, workers are retrenched, and we want to make it difficult. That's what of the issue. But in terms of the issue of the workers' right, the gains that we have aged, there's no such thing that has happened, because that has been opposed in relation to some of those issues. There is an issue that people are blaming at, but if you check a number of the unions, even the unions that are outside COSATU, in their constitution, there is a clause about when workers want to go to strike, they will have to ballot. The issue that has been engaged and disagreed with the employers at NATLAC is about balloting workers in the presence of the employer. But there is no such thing about reversing the rights of the workers in terms of the labor relation that has been agreed at NATLAC. And my leader there from the civil society, at NATLAC, they are represented. We take as if that they are represented by community, because community is sitting there as part of the social partners at NATLAC, and we think that they are responding to, they are representing the interests of those people. That's why when they come there, at some stage, we caution their credibility when they sit in some of the chambers. The last thing, Vuyo, that you raise, for COSATU, if there is any ill discipline of the leaders of COSATU, when that matter is brought to COSATU National Office Bearers or the Central Executive Committee, COSATU takes action.
Tami, I mean, Zweli Nzimavavi yesterday spoke about less competition and more cooperation. And as I was saying to Soli Malema earlier, the spirit of togetherness, you know, that COSATU and SAFTU and their affiliates what we have seen recently has actually resulted, many people would argue, in actually more positive gains. If you look at what happened in the Platinum Belt, for example, if you look at what has happened at ESCOM, for example, it has really brought workers together. I'm wondering whether you as civil society should also begin to perhaps demonstrate that you aren't and shouldn't be a junior partner. In other words, put pressure on these union federations and on their affiliates to actually ensure that what COSATU stood for right at the beginning and all the way, over the years, where they didn't separate, or artificially separate the life of a worker who's experiencing, discrimination, underpaid at the shop floor, who's fighting for better living conditions, from, the worker who has to trudge home to inhumane living and socio-economic conditions. That, in other words, do you realize or recognize that perhaps you have an even bigger responsibility than simply being junior partners at a time like this?
No, exactly. We do realize that. That is why tomorrow we are actually decided to be part of the action tomorrow, because we want to bridge this artificial gap between the organized labor at the centers of production and the civil society or community or social movement. We think that unity and solidarity is sacrosanct in pushing forward our struggle as the struggle of the working class in the country. Hence, we think that it is important that we work for this unity and we fight and struggle to achieve this unity and solidarity between the workers, the students, and the communities. So that is very important for us. And also, we do hope that through this exercise, we will be able to consolidate after the event tomorrow, reflect and consolidate the gains that we hope to make tomorrow, and also move forward with a view of really getting a really revolutionary organization or mass-based revolutionary organization of the working class in this country that will really bring about the liberation that we have been hoping for since from 1994. Because as things stand now, we have a situation where the party that have been put in power through the votes of the majority of our people is submitting the economic policies to the structural adjustment of the IMF and World Bank without even the mandate of the majority of the people of this country. And that is a problematic. We do want to have a government that will really respond to the needs and the interest and the aspirations of the majority, not only create favorable conditions for the investors to come and exploit our people in this country.
Okay, we'll see how the big day tomorrow pans out, but also, of course, what happens beyond that once all of you assess what will have happened tomorrow and whatever else that you want to forge as a program of action going forward. But thank you so much to all three of you for agreeing to come on the program this evening.
No, thanks, Rio.
Yeah, that's what we're going to. After the break, we once again shine the spotlight on the plight of whistleblowers. This on the back of the passing today of whistleblower and former MP Feiki Mentor. On the same day, friends and family were remembering another whistleblower, Babita Diokaran, who died a year ago. Messages of condolence, support, continue to pour in after the passing of state capture whistleblower and former ANC MP Feiki Mentor. The 58-year-old is best remembered for her role as one of the first whistleblowers to testify at the Commission of Inquiry into allegations of state capture. She testified about her encounter with the Gupta brothers, allegedly at former President Jacob Zuma's behest. Mentor also served as an ANC member of parliament between 2002 and 2014, leaving the governing party in 2019 to join the ACDP and finding her last political home in Action SA from 2020.
Because I'm not a lawyer.
Former ANC MP Fakey Mentor shot to fame as a whistleblower on allegations of state capture.
So help me God.
Mentor was born in 1963. An anti-apartheid activist, she served as ANC MP from 2002 until 2014. While an MP, Mentor also served as chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Public Enterprises from 2009 to 2010. She's recognized as being amongst the first people to break ranks with the ANC after she raised the alarm on state capture. During several days of testimony at the state capture inquiry, Mentor alleged that the Gupta family had offered to make her public enterprise minister should she drop the SAA route to India. She said the offer was made while former President Jacob Zuma was in the next room of the family's Saxonwold home. But she was later criticized as her evidence could not be corroborated by the Commission's evidence leaders.
I asked him questions when he gave me the offer. I asked him, how could I become a minister of public enterprises? He said the president was about to reshuffle the cabinet, and as I said yesterday, that was not in the public domain.
After resigning as an ANC Member of Parliament, she joined ACDP in March 2019, but did not stay there long. A year later, she moved to Action SA, which remained her political home until her last day.
Fakey had been ill for some time, and this morning her family called to inform us that she had succumbed to her illness after being hospitalized for several months. It should never be forgotten that Fakey Mentor was the first to sound the alarm on what we today call state capture. She was a true patriot who served her country even in the face of criticism.
Tributes continue to pour in from other quarters, describing her death as a massive loss.
The passing on of Fakey Mentor is a massive loss, not only for her family, but to the entire country. The country has lost a hard worker, committed patriot, a fearless soldier, a corruption buster, a no-nonsense servant of the people who gave her entire life for the freedom of all the people of South Africa.
Information about the funeral arrangements is still to be communicated. Ntlantla Khatlani, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Earlier, family and friends, together with activists and senior government officials, paid tribute to another whistleblower, Babita Deokaran. Deokaran was a senior Gauteng Health Department official and a key witness in fraud and corruption investigations into the Gauteng Health Department's PEE tenders. She was shot and killed on this day last year outside her home in the south of Johannesburg in what appeared to have been a hit. 6 men charged with her murder are expected to appear in the Johannesburg High Court on Wednesday.
Everything I've heard about her since has shown that she is a real hero and really epitomizes what we want of public servants. Someone in a quiet way who stood up, who identified corrupt transactions and paid the price, a huge price, and especially to her family, her daughter. It's painful to talk about her. For me, it must be so much more painful for you as a family.
The culture of impunity has really been fueled by those who continue to perpetrate the acts of corruption and nothing gets done. We are of the view and this is a prevalent view, I would say, that those who are responsible and the evidence shows and points to them, action needs to be done and taken decisively.
The head of the SIU there, and before him, the current acting head of Treasury, speaking a short while ago at the memorial service to honor Babita Deokaran. So how much progress is being made to protect whistleblowers in our country? To reflect on this, please welcome Advocate Stephanie Fick, who is the executive of the Accountability Division at the organization Undoing Tax Abuse Outer. Good evening, and thank you so much. Stephanie, are we making any progress?
No, I think if I have to be honest, I mean, we are remembering tonight, you know, the life of a very important woman that stood up and exposed corruption. And although, you know, the perpetrators might be appearing in front of you know, in court, did we hold to account the people that she exposed? And I think if we look at, you know, the way the investigation has been conducted, or the lack thereof, is do we really take whistleblowing seriously? I think if we look at the history, if we look at, for example, this case specifically, I don't think that, firstly, we take accountability serious enough. And then secondly, I don't think our laws protect the whistleblowers, the men and women that is brave enough to stand up and say no to corruption, no to maladministration in this country, that they are protected. It is very difficult because I think that there are various ways of protecting whistleblowers. But, I mean, if you just think about other brave whistleblowers, what happened to their careers? And when we were fortunate enough to be approached by Cynthia Stimple, for example, Tuli Mshe, and with their help, we were able to declare Dudu Mnyeni, the former chairperson of SAA, a delinquent director. So the role that whistleblowers play in South Africa in combating corruption is extremely important. But is our legislation, is the political will, is the will there to hold to account if someone is exposed? I think, unfortunately, the answer is no.
In fact, I mean, as soon as she became aware, Babita that is, that there were people after her having uncovered some of the things she did, or at the very least question many of these transactions, she sought protection, which she didn't get.
Exactly. And if you just read what is currently in the newspapers and that's reported, the fact that we still do not have a proper investigation, I think it's really a slap in the face of someone as brave as Babita. But I mean, just today there was the revelations of the Tembisa Hospital, you know, buying skinny jeans for 6 to 7 year olds. 500,000 Rand it cost them. The 1,203 contracts. It is ridiculous. And then you ask why, you know, the CEO is still there. Why is there no actions? Now, I know, and we can all agree that, yes, in terms of our law, someone is guilty until, is not guilty until proven guilty. But that's a constitutional right if you're an excuse. I think sometimes we forget that it's also about ethical leadership. It's about discipline. It's about, you know, ethics, and that a disciplinary action takes less to take action. And I think really the department has let us down, that there should have been an investigation the minute the whistleblower, you know, put her hand up and say that there are certain things not in order, that there should have been an investigation. And surely we could have taken action by now. If you look at all the circumstances, all the surrounding circumstances, surely there's enough to take some action, and that we can honor the whistleblowers that is willing to stand up. You know, Babita, and we can honor her because this is some of the extreme, it is an extreme case. But what about all the other very brave men and women? And I've said this before, that is really willing to put their careers online to expose corruption. What does this tell our children and potential witnesses about, standing up and being brave? And I think the message that's probably sending is, keep your mouth shut. And that's not what we want. It is really time for us, civil society, everybody to stand up and say, we need to protect whistleblowers and that we will not stop until there are laws and policies that will protect any future whistleblower.
What is it about our laws? In other words, I don't know if you are able to share what perhaps other jurisdictions do with their laws to make sure that they get the kind of outcomes we all would like to see. And because often, we hear that in South Africa, we have some of the best laws, some of the best policies. The issue is usually with implementation. And here you are saying, we need more laws.
I do agree with you.
Better laws.
I think normally, there's nothing wrong with legislation in our country. It's the people implementing it. But when it comes to whistleblowing, there's no legislation that makes provision or protects, let me rather say, protect the person that is basically victimized by an employer. And it's not the only place where it's happening, but let's take, for example, a government department. They usually litigate with, the state's purse, taxpayers' money, and they can go after any individual. I think during state capture,
isn't that where the judges have come in to then, rule that people must pay out of their pockets? So there seems to have been movement there.
Yes. But maybe that's a little bit too late. How many of us can really afford to go to court and protect our rights? Yes, at the end, if you're successful, you might get some money back. But if you are suspended, you are also isolated. And it's not only, although I sometimes think that, money is a big problem, it's also the emotional abuse. You are isolated. And how many of whistleblowers are really then welcomed back into the workspace? How many companies, how many state departments welcome whistleblowers back into the fold and say, yes, we will employ whistleblowers? I think, a lot of the private sector and even government is wary of employing people that showed the courage to stand up and expose corruption.
Okay.
And I just think that legislation should empower whistleblowers instead of, just elementary provisions.
Stephanie Fick, let me thank you very much for your time this evening. She is the executive of the Accountability Division at Organization Undoing Tax Abuse, and that is out on the day, of course. People were paying tribute to Babita Deokaran, as well, of course, as Feiki Mentor, some of the whistleblowers who came forward during this period to really try the little that they could do from their vantage points to stop the rot that we've seen over the years. Well, may their souls rest in peace. And that's our program for tonight. To join us again tomorrow evening, same time. Have a good night.